Hello there, my name's Scott, and today I'm not going to be doing a review. Instead, I just want to talk to you about my sort of recent experiences with the Strata, which is a dripping atomizer that I purchased last week. Now, before I go any further though, for all the Strata owners out there, please go and double check your drip tip. And I'm talking about the drip tip that actually comes supplied with the Strata. Now, the reason why I say that is because when I first got it, I attached it onto my Precise Simplicity, which is a really nice little sort of mod. I set up all the coils, added a bit of juice, pressed the fire button, loads of vapour everywhere, and to me everything seemed perfectly fine. I thought I was going to get a really nice vape out of it. I then added the top cap and the drip tip, pressed the button, and the coils would not fire up at all, and instead the battery started to get red hot. And I took the top cap off, pressed the button again, vapour coming out, everything's looking fine and dandy. So I really couldn't work out quite what the issue was until I noticed that around the top cap, where the top cap meets the drip tip, there was loads of little scorch marks. And so I took the top cap off and had a closer look, and it was then that I realised that the drip tip is too long, and when you push it in, it actually makes contact with the positive and the negative terminals, obviously creating a short circuit. And that is obviously the explanation as to why my coils would stop firing up and the battery would get red hot. So if you're a Strata owner, then please go and double check it, because you know, there are people on the forums who are setting up the Strata using an 18350 battery, and they're setting it up with quad coils, so that's risky enough on its own. But imagine if you've got a short circuit to throw into the mix as well. It just sounds like a recipe for disaster. Now, I did contact Super Team Manufacturing and let them know what the issue I was having with regards to the short circuit, and they actually said that they was already aware of it, which kind of begs the question, why the bloody hell are you still letting people sell them to the public, you know? Because for me, that's extremely dangerous. And they have advised that, you know, everyone should stop using the included drip tip straight away, basically. Now, before I go any further, I just want to make people aware who've maybe never heard of me, they're watching my video for the first time, just sort of a bit of my background, so to speak. I started vaping in August 2008, and for the last 6 years I've been uploading video reviews on electronic cigarettes, e-liquid, atomizers, etc, etc. I was one of the, well, in fact I was one of the first e-cig reviewers to actually appear on YouTube. There's only 2 other guys at the time when I first started uploading my videos. And I was also one of the first guys to start uploading videos with regards to rebuildable atomizers. Since I uploaded my first rebuildable atomizer video, I've probably gone through maybe 300, 400 different atomizers for review, for purchase, for prototype testing from companies all around the world. And I've got a pretty good idea of how an atomizer works, and it's very, very basic. You have a drip tip, a tank, you fill it up with e-liquid, you have your coil, and basically as you inhale on the drip tip, you draw air in, it passes directly over the coil, and you get plenty of vapour. And that is the science of an atomizer. It really is that simple. As long as the air passes directly over the coil, you're always going to get plenty of vapour. And I'm going to give you a very quick sort of demonstration of that. So at the moment I've just got a cheap old iGo L atomizer, 1.6 ohm coil in there. The drip, the air hole is facing directly in front of the wick. Let me give you a quick demonstration. As you see, really nice vapour. Now what I'm going to do here is just take off the top cap and then position the air hole away from it. Now some air is still going to pass over that coil, but it's not going to be going directly over it, and you should hopefully be able to see the difference. And I'm doing sort of direct lung inhales for both there. Now the difference is, one, hopefully you can visibly see just how much of a difference the actual vapour is. The first sort of example, nice sort of thick vapour. The second example, the vapour starts getting very wispy. In addition to the wispy vapour, what you will notice is that the flavour increases tenfold, and the actual throat hit becomes very sort of quite sort of sharp and harsh. It's not particularly pleasant. So that is why it's always vitally important to have the airflow passing directly over the coil. I'll give you another demonstration with the airflow over the coil. Now you may be thinking, what the bloody hell is this geezer going on about? You know, why is he sort of jumping from one thing to a completely different thing and then back to something else? And all these things are tied together, and hopefully by the end of the video you will sort of get the point that I'm trying to make. So anyway, I have the Precise Strata here on my Precise Simplicity, which I also bought at the same time. So it's quite an expensive package. It cost me 250 quid, something like that, 260 maybe. It's around that sort of ballpark anyway, so not a cheap setup, but it's a fantastic looking setup though. I've got the 18350 version of the Simplicity. The Simplicity I can't fault at all. It's a fantastic little device, really happy with it. And like I said, with the Strata on top of it, which has a sort of hybrid connection, so it turns into a little hybrid dripper, you know, looks wise, you know, that is absolutely gorgeous in my opinion. Now, the Strata has a slightly different sort of way of doing airflow. So as you can hopefully see, going around the top here, you have these 4 air holes, and that's where air is going to come in. So as you drag on the mouthpiece, air is going to get sort of sucked in now. It's then going to go down these little sort of tiny, how do I explain it? It's drilled across and then it goes straight down. So the drill hole actually goes straight down, and then it exits at the bottom. There's a little gap where you have to sort of leave a bit of a gap to allow for airflow, because it's like an adjustable drawer. And then basically when it exits the little air hole, it's then going to hit a ledge and then sort of, according to the Super T manufacturing, divert out at a 90-degree angle directly onto the coil. I completely disagree. It doesn't direct out at a 90-degree angle. Instead, it comes down there, hits the atomizer deck and goes poof, because like what any sort of anything that sort of is fluid or gaseous or whatever, if it hits a solid object, it's going to go poof like that, and then it will go straight up. And I mentioned this to Super T, and I also posted a picture. There was this picture here, which you can hopefully see now. And for what I feel, should I say, is a better solution for where the air holes should actually exit. Because on the left-hand side one now, you can see the air holes are exiting at the bottom, and then any air that's coming out is then hitting the atomizer deck, which is basically like acting as a ledge, and then it's being sort of deflected outwards onto the coil. Whereas on the right-hand side, you can see the air channels are still going down, so they're still exactly the same design, apart from rather than exiting at the bottom, it's going to exit at the sides. And in that way, it'll be like a little jet of air going straight out onto your coils, and you're not going to get any problems, because all I'm getting from this is all I was getting from this is a very wispy vape, which was very similar to how the iGo was when you turn the top cap around and had the air hole facing away from the coil. So that was why I included that, you see. Now, I mentioned this to Super T, or on the Super T forum, and then you know, people started sort of chipping in and saying, oh, you need to do this, you need to do that, you've got to make sure the air holes are lined up directly in front of everything, you've got to try a snork coil, whatever the fuck that is, you've got to try an Ophion coil, again, whatever the fuck that is, you know, you've got to try all these sort of things. I'm thinking, this sounds like a bit of a jip, really. I mean, like, surely it's just an atomizer, you build a coil, you direct air at it, you have a vape, and that's it, you know, Bob's your uncle, fanny's your aunt. That's all it is. That's the science behind an atomizer, full stop. Anyway, so I then started reading back through some of the threads on there. There's a thread on there which has got like sort of 200 pages long, and the one thing I noticed that people kept on saying was, I need to spend more time with it. I'm getting a reasonable amount of vapor now, and it's all quotes like this. I'm thinking, people are paying this amount of money for an atomizer, and it seems like it's not been tested at all. And the impression I got from some of the replies and from some of the replies from Super T manufacturing was that Super T have basically built an atomizer, then said, here's an atty, now you go and find a way to make it work. Because the thread is all people trying, oh, you've got to try this, try that, try that. People are sort of desperately trying to get this thing to work. Now, at the time when I sort of chipped into this thread and started posting my photos and my sort of critique of it and and what I suggested to be better, there wasn't a single video on YouTube, and I think there's probably 1 or 2 people on the Super T subforum who was saying they was getting good results. Everyone else was saying pretty much exactly like what I was saying. You know, you're getting plenty of flavour, you're getting a really sort of raspy throat hit, and the vapour just seems quite weak or quite wispy. However, as soon as I sort of chips in, and that's it, everyone starts sort of, the exact same people in fact, were then saying, oh, it's the best atomizer in the world, I'm getting thick, dense clouds of vapour, and then all of a sudden, from that point onwards, people are now sort of uploading their videos to sort of try and prove me wrong. And it's great, that's excellent. People should be doing that. They should be trying to prove me wrong, because I want to see people enjoying the Strata. I want to see people getting a good vape out of it. I'm a paying customer, you're a paying customer, and you know, I want all of us to have a bloody good vape out of it. But the thing is that people are having to work so hard to get it to work nicely. Whereas if the air holes were pointing inwards rather than down, you'd get a blinding vape. You could put any sort of coil you want in there. You could make a coil in the dark, make it the worst coil in the world, but as long as you've got airflow passing directly in front of it, or directly over it, or through it, or whatever you want to call it, then you're going to get plenty of vapour every single time. Now the manufacturer, you know, he got a little bit snooty with me, old Dave, and he started saying to me, he basically mugged me off and said, no, if you want to use my atomizer, you should have at least a very basic idea of fluid dynamics. And which did sort of make me quite laugh, to be quite honest. And anyway, I've done a few little tests to try and sort of show what I was meaning, and I've also involved fluid dynamics. Okay, so for this test, I've taken 2 syringes, and one of them I've just left unmodified, and the other one's going to be sort of blocked off at the end and have a hole through it. So this is the unmodified one with the blue dye, and this is the pink one, which has the hole in the side, which is going to basically act as the air vents coming out the side. I've then taken a sheet of paper and very crudely drawn a diagram representing the atomizer deck, and as you can see, I also have the coil placement there as well. So I'm going to start off with the blue dye with the unmodified syringe. I'm going to hold it straight down towards the paper, hold it around sort of maybe a centimetre above it, and then squirt it directly downwards onto what would be the atomizer deck. I'm then going to repeat the same process, but this time using the pink dye, and this is with the syringe, where it's going to act in the same way as having the air holes coming out the side. And as you can see, it actually shoots out in a jet. So if you have a quick look at that, you can see that the first one is going to hit the atomizer deck and then basically just sort of, whereas the other one is just going to shoot out as a nice jet straight over the coils, and you're going to get a really good vape out of it. So obviously I need to probably replicate the test again, or repeat it, so let's do it one more time. So again, I'm going to start off with the blue syringe, which is going to act as the current top cap as it stands, with the air holes facing down. And as you can see, it comes out as a jet, but then as soon as it hits the atomizer deck, it just sort of splurges out in all directions. Now with the pink one, which has the modified syringe, which is going to act as though sort of the air holes are coming out the side. And again, you can see that the blue dye is just a big splat, and the pink one is going out as a nice jet, which is going to go straight over the coils and give you a blinding vape. And for the third time lucky, let's try it one more time. So blue one to start off with, splat. And now for the pink as well. And instead you can tell that these are 3 different tests because I've drawn a different smiley face on each one. And the pink one, nice jet, there you go. And that is how basically the air is going to work. So if you have the air flow pointing downwards, it's just going to hit the deck and disperse in all directions. If you have it pointing inwards towards the coil, it's going to come out as a nice jet straight over it, and it'll give you a blinding vape every single time. Now that was with fluid. Let's try it with vapour then. So again, this is the sort of unmodified syringe. Now let's just rewind that a little bit and take a nice freeze frame there. And as you can see, right in the middle there, you've got a nice jet, and then as soon as it hits the atomizer deck, it's dispersing in all directions. So it wouldn't really be going all over the coil. Next one is going to be with the modified syringe, which again, I want to repeat, is going to act as though the air holes are coming out the side towards the coil. And again, let's just rewind that and find a nice freeze frame. It's about there. And as you can see really clearly, it's coming out as a really nice long jet. It's going to go straight over the coils. And it's also going to be extremely more easy to set up and get a really nice vape out of it. Now, one thing I can't actually replicate in those tests is the fact that once it leaves the air hole, it's then going to travel upwards towards the mouthpiece, obviously as you're inhaling on it. However though, I think they still give you a very, very good idea of what actually will happen once the air exits the air hole. If you have it pointing downwards, it's going to hit the ledge of the atomizer deck, and then go poof like that, and then it's going to go over the coil and then go up for the mouthpiece. So not all that air is going to be concentrated on the coil or directed at the coil. Whereas if you have the air holes facing inwards, then the air hole comes out as a nice stream, or a nice sort of concentrated jet of air, exactly the same as using a regular sort of side side air hole on a normal sort of regular atomizer. It's going to go directly over the coil. It's going to be concentrated as going directly over the coil, and it's going to give you a massive amount of vapour compared to using it as it currently stands. And that is my personal opinion, and I think I'm pretty accurate, to be quite honest, but I'm sure many will disagree, especially older Super T Dave. Anyway, so can you get a good vape out of the Strata? Yes, you can, and I'm very pleased to say I have got what I consider to be a pretty good vape out of it. Is it easy to set up? Now I know what I'm doing, now I know how to get a decent results. I'm sure the next time I probably could set it up quite easily. Is it worth the hassle doing it this way? Probably not. I don't really want to be spending, I spent 3 days on this doing various coils, different types of coils, coil placement, up, down, left, right, in, out, all that sort of bollocks, you know. It's not worth the hassle. It really isn't worth the hassle to keep on fucking about so much just to try and get an adequate vape out of it. And the other problem is that if you don't line up the air hole directly in front of that, of where your coil is, then the vapour just goes, it really does just turn pants again. Now, I've got an 18350 version, so I'm not going to be doing dual coils. I'm not going to be doing triple coils, quadruple coils, all that sort of caper, because I want to keep vaping at a safe, well, I want to vape safely for starters. So obviously the batteries can't handle that. So I'm limited to a single coil setup, which according to the blurb on the website, this is perfectly adequate for a single coil setup. Now, how have I got it going then? So I have a single coil in here, a micro coil. It's facing upwards. It's like a horizontal, vertical coil. It's about 10 wraps of Canthal 28 gauge or 28 millimeter Canthal. It's measuring 2 ohms, but I've got an internal resistance of 0.6, so the total resistance is going to be 1.4 ohms, so not a particularly low ohm coil. If I take the top cap off, you can see it in action, so that's firing up. So there you go. I'll do a little close up for you as well so you can see it a bit clearer. And as you can see, that's chucking out plenty of vapour. And you know, I'm only using a PG based e-liquid here. You know, this is what I vape pretty much all day, every day. Crappy Tech Titan fluid tobacco. I've been vaping it for years now. I still love it. And the other thing you have to sort of be very mindful of though is lining up where the air holes are. Now you may think, oh, that's where the air hole is, you know, where these ones are, but they're not, because like I said, it goes out and then it goes downwards. And so what I've had to do is actually sort of get a Sharpie out and mark it off. And I was showing this on the forums last night. And then I've also had to put a little mark on the actual on the base as well to show me where the coil is. So if I put this on now, leave a little bit of a gap, so I've obviously got a bit of airflow because it is an adjustable draw, so the tighter you do it up, the less draw you're going to get. Obviously you need to be able to draw at least a little bit. And then I'm going to do it down to about, well, let's back it off around sort of 1 full turn, it should be enough. And as you can hopefully see, I've now got one of the air holes lined up directly with the mark that lets me know where the coil is. So let's take a break. Let's take a vape. That's the one. Now, you know, it's not quite sort of cloud chasing, but I'm not particularly bothered about cloud chasing. I just want a nice amount of vapour that isn't sort of wispy, that's not killing my throat basically. And for me, the way this is set up now, I'm more than happy with the amount of vapour I'm getting out of it. And you know, that's just a little sort of short mouth in how, remember it's a 1.4 ohm coil, just a single coil on its own, it's still you know, producing plenty of vapour. If I do a direct lung inhale, I can get even more vapour. You know, not brilliant, but definitely more vapour there. Now, here's the issue though. Like I said, everything has to be exactly right. The coil has to be just above the deck, it has to be as close to the deck as possible. The air hole has to be exactly lined up. So let's just move this away a little bit now and have another vape. And straight away you can see just how much more wispy it is now. Let's turn it back a little bit more then. little bit better. So let's make sure it's exactly right on the sweet spot, which is there. And straight away you can just see that the amount of vapour, you know, has got a lot better. So yes, you can set it up and get a nice vape with just a single coil in there, no problem at all. You do have to make sure that the coil is just slightly above the atomizer deck, because obviously as the air comes in, it's going to, well, as the air comes in, should I say, it's then going to get deflected outwards, upwards and to the sides. It's then going to go upwards to the mouthpiece. So my theory was, if I have it vertical and above the deck, it's going to at least catch a little bit more air as it's going up towards the mouthpiece. But you know, you do have to make sure that the your air hole is lined up directly, perfectly with the coil. So it means you may have to sort of get a Sharpie out and draw loads of little dots all over your mod, which is not really ideal. Now, if this had the side air holes, so you can still have the top cap exactly how it is now, exactly the same design, but rather than the air holes coming out the bottom, they exit through the sides. I'll give you a demonstration of what this can do. So the same coil in there, I'm just going to add a touch more juice without dropping that. Just because I've done my throat in. So the same coil in there, nothing's changed. But instead I've got a homemade DIY top cap made out of a plastic bottle, which just happens to be the perfect size for a drip tip, by the way. And what I've done is I've just basically got a little screwdriver and melted a hole in the side of it. And now you see the difference in performance. I'm just going to literally rest this on top, or try and wedge it on top, so I need to try and form a bit of a seal. It will go on there. Alright, so it's a little bit crooked, looks a bit wanky, but you see the difference. You know, let's just give you a profile shot as well. You know, I think, bearing in mind again, it's a 1.4 ohm coil, it's a single coil on an 18350 battery. Look how much vape you're getting out of that. And I think that would even satisfy most cloud chasers out there, to be quite honest. Well, maybe not all of them, but you know, some of them maybe. So for me, a massive difference, and that's using a plastic bottle as a top cap. And the only difference is that the air is going from the side straight over the coil. And you know, a massive difference. And by having it that way, it doesn't matter how you set it up. It doesn't matter if your coils are crap. They could be all over the place. You could have sort of been blindfolded and wrapped the world's worst coil, but as long as air's passing directly over it, you're going to get a good vape out of it. I absolutely guarantee it every single time. So you know, it's a real shame, because it'll be fantastic otherwise, and I'd love to be able to, you know, say loads of positive stuff about it. But you know, from my experience, you know, with the short circuiting drip tip, to having to sort of fanny about of it so much just to sort of try and get a relatively adequate vape out of it, you know, it's very disappointing, especially when all it needs is to have the air holes facing the wick rather than facing down and hitting the ledge. You know, there you go. So that is my thoughts on the Strata. It's not a review. Like I said, I want to sort of point out the error with the drip tip, and also to try and sort of combat some of the questions or the sort of allegations that have been thrown at me on the sort of Super T sub forum. You know, so like I said, you know, if people are getting on great with it, I really am genuinely pleased. You know, like I said, I'm a paying customer, you're a paying customer. I want everyone to have a nice vape out of it, and you know, I genuinely do mean that as well. So if you're happy with it, you know, absolutely fantastic. But my experience has been a little bit different. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for watching, and you know, if you fancy it, also come along and visit my website at www.e-cig-reviews.com. That's e-cig-reviews.com. Cheers, guys. Happy vaping. See you later.